How are you diddling? I want to share with you a really simple visual aid that I've used with people when it comes to understanding how they need to market their business effectively. And I actually call this ABC players, ABC, like the alphabet. And I break it down into 3 simple stages using the visual of a baseball stadium. You're probably thinking, why a baseball stadium? You're British. Use something more appropriate. It makes more sense as I sort of open up the visual and explain it to you. Why has this been useful? Well, what a lot of people that I've come into contact with over the years experience when they begin to unpack some of the issues or the challenges that they have with their marketing, they tell me, well, how do I attract new people into my world, people who have never heard of me? How do I encourage, persuade, warm up the people that are in my world? And then how do I get them, once they're warmed up, how do I transition them into actually paying me money and becoming a short, mid or long-term client? And this is the ABC that I want to go through. Now, the first visual that I want you to have in your mind is this baseball stadium that I've just mentioned. And there's going to be 3 distinctive places of where we're going to sort of walk through this together. The first place is on the outside of the stadium. The second place is in the stand, so in the seats. And then the third and final place, so this is C, B, and then A, is going to be on the actual pitch, on the green. And I don't know what you actually call a baseball pitch. Yeah, it's baseball pitch, right? So on the pitch, where the actual gameplay happens. So let's start to create some distinctive dividers of what this means for your marketing and for your business. So C players are the people that are on the outside of the stadium, right? These people can potentially hear the noise that's going on inside of the stadium, the uproar of the crowd as they stand on their feet when something exciting's happening, or sometimes the quiet of something that's about to happen. That also can be felt and heard on the outside of the stadium too. Now, these people, these C players, how do we actually get them to come into the stadium? Well, it's through those 2 mechanisms that I've just described. Either through an intensity of content that has so much noise and so much volume and amplification that they just can't help but ignore it, or the other way around. The other way around is the potency. So rather than volume of content and volume of what you do, you've got a single big hitter. So for example, John Lewis here in the UK, they're quite infamous for their Christmas advert that they put out. Around the holiday season, there's one advert and it runs exactly the same, this one advert through the entirety, perhaps from the end of October, beginning of November, I don't know exactly when it comes out, all the way through up until Christmas Day. One advert. And on the flip side, you've got companies that have a huge array of advertisements that happen through a different cadence, through all different seasons, advertising lots of different things throughout. Now, both work. Both are effective for the companies, that use these. And then for local businesses, you can do exactly the same thing. But the most important thing is having some form of initial attraction that brings people closer to or inside of the stadium itself. Makes sense, right? Now, what do we do once we've got people inside? How do we then look after these B players? The other thing you've got to think about is, as people are entering the baseball field, the baseball pitch, or just the stadium itself, is as you're going through the doors, what are these people being met with? What are the smells? What are the noises? What's the ambiance? Why do I sound so French? What is the ambient nature of that environment? Does it feel uplifting? Is it a bit of a ghost town? What's going on? And then what's going to encourage these people to come in, sit down, and start partaking in perhaps what we're trying to indoctrinate people into seeing, believing, feeling, or experiencing about your business? So again, just draw yourself back to, what happens in a stadium environment. And now, I've never been to a baseball stadium, but I've seen enough films and I've got enough American friends, for strong reference. So I always picture myself sat in the baseball stadium, and there's people coming around with hot dogs, snacks, drinks, things of this nature, or as at least a place of where you can get that stuff and go to your seat. And then that adds to the entertainment value of what is happening in the centre. Now, this whole time, there are going to be different levels of people, different, what would be the word? It eludes me right now. But there's probably 2 to 3 levels of readiness inside of B players. There are going to be people that, as soon as they hear the noise on the outside of the stadium, they just come rushing in and they're just beelining to get onto the pitch, bat in hand, and they're ready to just start hitting home runs. These are customers that just come out of nowhere. It just so happens that something they've seen of yours is just the perfect timing. Now, they're quite rare. That's at this end of the scale. The majority of your customers are probably coming from places of where they've seen who you are, they've heard the noise, they've come into the stadium, they've sat in the stands, they've ate a lot of snacks, they've maybe rubbed shoulders with some people that have been there a little bit longer, and maybe they recognise a few people that have walked down to the pitch and they're ready to start hitting home runs. They've seen reviews, testimonials, things of this nature, and they understand the concept of what it is that you actually do because they've been in that environment for long enough. Now, before I go on, I'm hoping you're starting to see and appreciate the game of marketing and the game of how we attract, how we magnetize the right people into your stadium, your game that you're playing, and then making sure that this is like a filtering process. So on the outside of the stadium, the C players, it's a sea of people. Not a C, but a C as in S-E-A. It's a sea of people, and then we're filtering those people down, those that can hear or they want to listen what's going on inside the stadium. They're so intrigued, they can't help but come to the doors, enter, and then find a seat for themselves. And then to get from B to A, it's a very similar process. We're now explaining, we're using the TVs, we're using the tannoys and the speaker system, we're using the people that go around with the snacks. We're maybe placing people that have worked with us previously on the pitch. Maybe they're now back in the stands talking about us and sharing positive experience, to then have this person that's been in the stand either short or long term to finally stand up and say, I'm ready to walk onto the pitch. I want a bat in my hand. I'm ready to start hitting some home runs. So this brings up a few questions, right? Brings up a few questions. Now, I believe the person that owns their own business and has some experience. Now, if you're a newbie, maybe you've never been in business, you've never owned your own business, or maybe it's your first few months or your first year, this might be a little bit challenging to piece together. However, if you've got a couple of years at least, and you've been really hands-on with your customers, and you're really passionate about what you do, then this is going to be like an extraction process. And maybe starting to think, the experience of what I give people is not an exciting game. There's nothing to watch on the pitch. There's no noise bringing people in through the doors. There's no people sort of wandering around asking people if they want snacks and, if they'd like to find a better seat to view the game that's going on. There's no encouragement over the tannoy for people to come down onto the pitch. The question you need to answer for yourself is, what is my current situation? What is my current stadium ranking? What am I doing really well right now, and what am I doing not so well? What can I do to improve this attraction from the C players and filter into the B, into the stands? And then what can I do to encourage as many of the right people, great customers as possible, to run down the stands onto the pitch, put bat in their hand and start hitting some home runs? What do I need to do? Now, success leaves a lot of... That's my youngest son. If you hear some noise, by the way, I always like to record my videos. I'm not scripted. I don't take notes. I'm just sharing a wealth and a lifetime of business experience, life experience, coaching a lot of different types of people and businesses. So sometimes I might be sat like this, sometimes I might be walking around, but you know, we're quite a big family, and I don't believe in trying to create a perfect scenario or a perfect situation to make these. I'd rather just share my knowledge and experience. So if you hear noises and things, it's totally normal. You know, so what experience do you want to give people? You know, do you want it to be a raw, uncut, unedited, you know, here's who we are, here's what we do as a business, because that suits the direction you want to take? Or do you want to have highly polished elements of your business out there that demonstrate your expertise in a completely different way? There's no right or wrong. You have to decide this. You have to decide who are the people that you're really great at looking after. Who can you get the biggest result for? How do we market to those people? How do we make the right noise in here if we're a bit low on bums on seats to bring people in through the door, the C players in? And then what do we need to do on the screens with the people in the stands? You know, what gameplay is happening in order to just get these people out of their seat, excited, become advocates of the business, and ultimately want to stay on that pitch and hit as many home runs as possible, i.e. increase your lifetime value, you know, that you have with your customers, helps you make more money as a business, but also creates huge value inside of that marketplace that you're passionate about as well. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps give you a visual representation, or maybe there's a different sport. maybe you don't like baseball, or maybe you're thinking of something else that you've got context with. But whatever you use for yourself, it works the same every single time. Whatever sport, a stadium, you know, whether it's football, whether it's American football, whether it's you know, Americans, you guys say, you know, soccer, it could be cricket, it could be rugby, it doesn't matter. The same process applies. Think about ABC players, how we talk to these different types of people and how indoctrinated or how deep they are inside of our world, and how can we filter the right people so we get more people on the pitch having a great time, making home runs, kicking goals, whatever it is. Hope this helps. I'll see you soon.